Hello, everyone. I'm assuming everybody can hear me if I don't hear anything otherwise, but it's a pleasure for our district to share our story with you. I know we have a lot of folks on the call from South Carolina as well as other states. And so we welcome you to kind of see a little bit of what we're doing here in our district that we're really very proud of, especially when we walk into classrooms and see what's happening between kids working with each other and kids working with their teachers. And I'm joined today by a couple of people who are going to jump on the call in a few minutes, but I'm going to start with just sharing our vision for how technology should be used and really the role at the district level for supporting the functionality of technology so that the teachers can be innovative. And so a little bit about our district. We have 16,500 students, which is one of the larger districts in our state, but it's really a mid-sized district probably across the country. We have 14 elementary schools, 5 middle schools, 4 high schools, a career center, an adult education center, and an alternative education program. And we are a big believer in having an interoperable digital ecosystem. And what that means to us is that it allows interoperable digital platforms, of which Schoology is one, and it enables the customization and personalization of instruction, and really so that we can address remediation and acceleration of student learning. So our goal is for students to learn, whether it's moving ahead because they've already mastered something or providing remediation for them or on-grade level instruction. But we want to provide ease of use for students, teachers, as well as the IT staff, and that's my department. So we want things to be easy for students and teachers to use, but we want it to be manageable for IT. And many of the interoperability standards that we're using come out of IMS, Global Learning Consortium, and this link is provided in this website. But for those who are the technical people on the call, those would be the standards such as Common Cartridge, Thin Common Cartridge, QTI, LTI, and One Roster. And then we also have other standards that we use in our interoperable digital ecosystem outside of the IMS standards, but those are very important to us. And this next picture gives you an image of what our digital ecosystem looks like. So starting on the left, we have kind of the network infrastructure. And if you go all the way over to the right, you can see Schoology as our learning management system. And Schoology allows for teachers to work with students, for students to work with each other, and for teachers to have access to the data that they need. In addition to Schoology as an LMS, we also have ClassLink as our single sign-on solution. So students log into ClassLink, they can go out to Schoology, and then we have many things that are available from single sign-on out to other platforms from both ClassLink and Schoology. We also, if you look in our state, we use PowerSchool as our student information system. The state provides Enrich as a database. Some of these more powerful data stores we use APIs for, and Schoology has a very powerful API with PowerSchool, as they do with a lot of other student information systems that are used across the country. And then we have many other textbook applications and web applications that we use open source standards for, such as LTI and Common Cartridge. And so really, why Schoology? And in our district, we've been using kind of rudimentary LMS for a number of years. And when we looked at Schoology, because we really wanted something that was more robust than what we had been using, what really drove us was that teachers were wanting to use a lot of different pedagogies, such as flipped classrooms, personalized instruction. They were gamifying their courses. And they were sending their students out to many different websites, and we couldn't even keep up with all of the things that our teachers were using to make sure that our firewall wasn't blocking the sites that they were using. Our parents would complain if they didn't know where their kids were supposed to be going for an English classroom, and their math teacher was using a different site. You know, the instructors were using whatever they could to do what they thought was best, but it meant many, many different URLs. It also meant that different logins and passwords needed to be kept up with by teachers. And then it also made it difficult for teachers to collaborate and share resources with parents as well as with each other. So we were looking for a solution that would allow for teachers to have a common place to build their digital lessons on that platform, but be able to pull in all of these different websites and applications that teachers love to use that we can't even keep up with what they're using. We wanted something that would allow for that ease of use and give our teachers or give our parents one login so they could see what all of their kids were doing, what all of the due dates were for their assignments, where they could check attendance, check grades, and see kind of the not only a bird's eye view, but the detailed view of what their child was doing. And we believe that what we have created has enabled a culture of innovation. So we've ensured that the students have a consistent experience as they move from one grade level to the other. We've expanded learning outside of the physical classroom, allowing our teachers time to focus on student achievement. And that really is important, especially when you think about students who may come into an alternative ed program or may go on homebound. We have homebound teachers now who, instead of having to go ask teachers, what are they doing in math and what pages are they on, they get added into their Schoology classroom as a teacher. The homebound teacher can see everything the kids are supposed to be doing, can have access to the teacher's videos for their lessons, sees the assignments that are due, and is really able to help. We also have kids who are sick who go on into the class during their class time, so that from home they're on their computer in biology or AP chemistry, and they're actually participating into the class remotely through Schoology, so they're able to take quizzes and see the homework that's going on, and it really has enabled teachers to do so much more than they were able to do before. And for us, we ask the question, if we can save teachers time by allowing them to build their lessons that the next year they just have to tweak, they can share resources with each other, they have easy access out to other platforms, what are those minutes worth? And just 10 minutes a day adds 30 instructional hours back to one teacher's class. So you multiply that over, 4 classes a day at the high school, and it adds a great deal of instructional time back for the teachers. So what we want to do now is to allow Kimber Nelson, I have on here Betsy Masters as well, but Betsy's contributed some of the thoughts behind this, but Kimber is going to be the one who presents. And Kimber has come out of the classroom as a teacher, and this year as an instructional technology coach. She's going to share some of the pages that we have seen from different teachers in our district and talk about some of the ways that our teachers are using Schoology, and then show you what it looks like from a student and a parent perspective as well. So I'd like to introduce Kimber Nelson.
Hi. The first page we're looking at is a teacher has taken her standards and they can use the mastery portion of Schoology, and they are able to use their standards within Schoology and look at how their students are succeeding and see what students have mastered that standard, maybe what student still needs some help, and what student really needs some one-on-one assistance. You can also then click on one particular standard, like I believe it was South Carolina, the Social Studies 8.831. And within that standard, you can actually see the assignments that are tied to that standard. And it's just another way to dig deeper and to see how your students are doing. And again, to see who's mastering, who needs that extra attention. As a former teacher, loved this part. It just gave me the data that I needed to work with my kids and know who my high flyers were. The next page is where, as a teacher, I can build my pages where I would want to maybe use a video to introduce the lesson or use that video to grab the attention. And so on these pages, you're able to insert videos so the students can watch during class. If you're really focusing on a flipped classroom, you could watch this video outside of class and be ready for when you come into class the next day and know what the topic is. You can build questions on this page. You give directions. I know when I was absent, I could build my pages, and my students knew exactly what to do when I was absent, and we didn't lose instruction time with that worksheet from the substitute. So they really like this. They like this, especially during the flu season. Mom and Dad knew exactly what page to go on. They knew what they were missing. And again, it's that loss of instruction time was wonderful. We didn't lose it. As a teacher, I believe in organization, and I can talk to you from the parent point of view as well, because I do have one in high school. Teachers can organize their pages. Some choose to organize it by units, like this teacher right here. You can see from the beginning of school down at the bottom, just starting off with doing science into right now she's at Unit 6 with talking about genetics. She's chosen to organize hers with unit folders. Some teachers choose 9 weeks, some teachers choose weekly, but as a parent, having everything organized is wonderful, especially if you know a student, your child has missed an assignment, you know exactly where to go back to. When you dig down into the folders, this teacher has organized it day by day and said exactly what is in that folder. You can see there's bell work, you can see what needs to go into the classwork agenda. And again, it's just a great way to organize, and the students love this. You also, go ahead.
And let me interrupt for just a minute. On this particular teacher, Miss Justice, who's at Daniel High School, is a phenomenal teacher and user of Schoology, but she has bell work every day where she gives a quick quiz, and she's able to do a 5 to 6 question review of the previous day's learning and does a quick line item analysis using Schoology's online assessment tool, and she's able to see, is there like some concept from last night's homework or from yesterday's lesson that the students did not get, and then she's able to pull either a group of students for a quick review or to do a review with the entire class if deemed necessary.
And you see the assignments. You also see she's included a video for that day, and if you look, you see the talk bubbles. This is where teachers can post discussions, and you just have the students just thinking on that higher level, thinking instead of the teacher giving all the information, now the students have a way to collaborate within each other. So I love the discussion piece of Schoology. You do have to monitor it, but it is very ease of use. And the kids can ask a question and another kid can answer it. So it's just the kids taking ownership. And that's one thing I loved about it. And again, you have the homework posted, so if you miss it, the homework's up there. You also have, as a teacher, a way to post updates. This update will go to the students on their Schoology page. The parent can see it as well. Say, I can tell you there might have been times when I maybe graded something wrong. It happens. And so I post an update or a reminder about a project coming up, a reminder, hey, this is what we're studying next week. It is just kind of, sometimes I would tease the kids in what we're studying, and they would come in class the next day and ask me, what does that mean? And I'm like, you'll have to see. So, hey, anything to spark a kid's interest, I'm all for it. The next thing is when you log in as a student, this is what you would see. And so you do have a home page where all of your teachers' updates and announcements will be posted, including your school, and anything from the district would be posted on here as well. You can look on the right side and see the overdue assignments that you might have. Hopefully you wouldn't have that many, but you're able to click right there directly on those assignments, take you there, and you can work. And sometimes even the students are now submitting their assignments online. So the teachers are beginning to use Google Drive and Google Assessments, and so they're able to just, keep it all online instead of turning in that piece of paper and losing that piece of paper, which we all did growing up.
And just going back to where we have the screenshot of the teacher's daily plan, this is where the interoperability is so powerful, because a teacher here might link out to a video that's out on the web, or it might be a video that's on our Safari Montage server here at the IT office, and it's a video that we have purchased rights to show. They may link to a Google Doc, like their classwork where they take notes as a Google Doc, and it forces the students to copy that to their own Google Drive. And then they take notes and they submit that in for points, daily points, before they leave at the end of the day. So this links out to either Office 365 or to Google. You can link out to Khan Academy or to Odyssey-ware or another web application, and the students don't know that they're actually going out to another site. It appears as if they're working inside of Schoology, but you might be linking out to either free or paid sites where the login information is being passed from Schoology to that other application, and it happens behind the scenes and you don't see that it's happening. So it makes it so easy for the teachers to build lessons using resources from multiple sites. And Schoology is just very powerful to enable that to happen. So we'll go here to the Gradebook.
Students are able to keep up with their own grades now and see how they're doing in class. They're just easy way to keep up. You click on your assignments. You can see if it's minor, if it's major, what average they made. So a lot of times the students would ask, Ms. Nelson, how am I doing in class? And I would say, well, go check on Schoology. And so after a while, they figured out, oh, I am accountable for my own learning, and I do need to take ownership. And they would come to me saying, hey, I noticed I'm missing this assignment. And mom and dad have a way of seeing that they're missing assignments as well. And as a parent, I want to know exactly when my child's slipping. I don't want to know every 4 weeks when my child's slipping.
Now the grades pass back to PowerSchool.
Oh, yes. And as the teacher can also, because Schoology is where our state has our information. The PowerSchool is, sorry. These grades will go back to the PowerSchool gradebook, so that when we're keeping report cards and in PowerSchool, it talks to each other. You have the student mastery view. If this teacher is using the mastery part, they're able to know, are they succeeding in a hold on, lost my train of thought, sorry y'all. If they're succeeding in a learning objective, maybe they're weaker in an area, and this is great, especially we all know state testing's coming, and so you want to know what area you can improve on to help. When you log in as a parent, this is my favorite part. I know exactly how my daughter's doing. If you look on the right-hand side, that's the recent grades. So anytime the teachers immediately put in the quizzes, the homework, the major projects, it's not overnight. You don't have to wait for anything to talk. It is immediate, and I love that, because sometimes I'll send a text to my child saying, why did you make a 60 on something? She doesn't like that, but I hold her accountable to it. I can also see the announcements from the school. I can see announcements from the district as well. I can keep up with what she's missing. I can even see on the bottom what's coming up. And kids might not like that part, but as a parent, I love this part, and I know exactly how my child is doing.
And one login lets you see all of your children's accounts.
Yes. If I had 3 kids in school at 3 different, an elementary, a middle, and high school, I only have one place to go and look. I don't have to be searching each individual school's website. I do love this. And there's an app, so I mean it comes right on my phone if that's what I want, or I can use this web-based.
And you can get email announcements as well.
Yes.
And my students, my own 3 sons attended a different district that did not use Schoology. And when you take 3 kids times 8 subjects that they were taking, and teachers might be using Google Classroom or Edmodo or this one web page or Weebly, I never knew where to go. I mean, all I could see is after the fact when a grade came in. I never knew what was coming up unless they told me. Like, it would have been so nice just to have one place where I could have gone and looked to see what was there. So we get a lot of positive feedback from our parents, because the parents aren't asking the kids for logins to their sites. We're teaching them internet safety. Don't share your passwords. We give parents their own password, so we know when kids are logging into Schoology, it wasn't their parent going in and doing it. The kids have their own logins, and the parents have their own logins.
Oh, I talked about this in my own one. Sorry. So this is a way that I have all of the assignments together and all of her teachers on one page, so I'm not having to click through 6 different teachers. I can just click on the course, it pulls down, and I can see again how she's doing all year, not just one quarter at a time, but how she is doing all year. And I can also hold the teachers accountable. I'm not saying that all teachers set up grade books correctly, but I'm telling you, as a parent, I will call a teacher out and go, I don't think your averages are averaging correctly. So in a way, this is also holding the teacher responsible and accountable as well.
Right. And now we're going to pass this over to Brenda Holliday, and she's our digital resources specialist. And she helps us manage our single sign-on with ClassLink, as well as all of the single sign-on that goes out from Schoology, and the links from Schoology out to other applications, and is able to kind of speak on the technical support side. And hopefully, when she is done, we'll have a time of Q&A, and between Kimber and Betsy and myself, hopefully we'll be able to answer any questions you might have. But I'd like to introduce Brenda Holliday.
Hello, I hope you can hear me. Before Schoology, as Barbara and Kimber have already mentioned, we had various websites that students, teachers, and parents would have to go to for information. There was no consistency from year to year or even from class to class in the same year. There were different logins and passwords for those websites that somebody had to manage. There were different URLs. Parents would not know where to go to look for upcoming assignments or what their students were missing. Teachers had to pass out textbook codes, create classes, and add their students to some of those sites. So there was a lot of duplication and wasted time. And for those reasons, we know that the resources that were out there that we were providing were not being fully used or used frequently. With Schoology, we now know that there is an API with PowerSchool, which is our student information system, that updates Schoology each night with teacher and student logins, classes, and class rosters. So teachers no longer have to manage those class rosters. And then the assignments and grades are synced back from Schoology to the Power Teacher Gradebook. Schoology is our communication tool for the parents with grades and assignments, but PowerSchool, Power Teacher is still our official gradebook that we use to report information to the State Department of Education. That particular sync is manual for us, but there is the ability within Schoology to automate those grade syncs. We use One Roster, which is an IMS global standard for a lot of our textbooks and other applications. Before we started using One Roster, each vendor might be wanting different fields of information, and they would want those fields in specific codes that they would require. Like they may all want gender, but one textbook vendor may want gender as female and male spelled out. Others may have wanted just the abbreviation, and others may have wanted either a code of 1 or 2 or something like that. So there was a lot of manipulating data on our end to get information to the textbooks and other applications. But with the One Roster standard, we export our information from PowerSchool and send it to those vendors. And then if they need to do any data mapping, it's done on their end. Our One Roster process runs each night, and it also contains teacher logins, student logins, and passwords if it's not a single sign-on application. It creates classes in our textbook vendor applications, as well as manages those class rosters. So again, teachers are no longer having to manually add students in classes. They are aware from the beginning that if they give an assignment to their class using an online resource, that all the students have access to that resource. that they don't have to beforehand go in and add the 3 new students that have come in. When new vendors come on that we're going to set up for one roster or whatever process, there is some work up front. You have to know with that particular vendor if you have to assign certain textbooks to various courses, if teachers need to activate materials before they're available, or whether it's open-ended, that the teacher can go in and they're confident that a geometry teacher is not going to assign the U.S. history textbook to their class. So you just have to work out all those details when you're setting up your new one roster process. Once it's set up, though, it's over and done with. With that nightly import, there is no more manipulation of data or trying to figure out how it works. Some vendors also provide LTI links, which we add into classes directly within Schoology. That allows the students in those particular classes to have access to those online resources. Then there are textbook cartridges. Some are just the textbook, but other cartridges include all kinds of other assets from those textbook vendors. And some of these are added to Schoology, and some are added to Safari Montage, which is our learning objective repository, and some are actually added to both systems. Okay.
And altogether, Brenda, let me just ask you this. I mean, Schoology has been very easy to work with to get these things set up, and other companies are used to working with Schoology.
That is correct. The companies know that they need to give us a secret and a key that we then install inside Schoology, and that's what makes the two talk to each other.
We also have teachers who will go out and purchase access to a website, and the teachers have the ability to add that secret and key themselves so that their code or their links work just for their classes. So we manage as much as we can at the district level for our teachers when there's things that we pay for and provide at the district level. But schools and teachers can also go in and add some of these interoperable links to digital resources on their own. It's very easy to do inside of Schoology.
That is correct.
So just a couple of things in summary for those of you who may be at the district level and who are listening in on this webinar. I will say that it takes a team approach from both the IT department and the instructional department, and then working with your building level administrators to have a vision for what you want students and teachers to be doing on their devices, one-to-one devices, BYOD devices, or if you're working in labs. What do you want kids to be doing? Do you want them creating? Do you want them writing? Do you want to take online assessments and have very quick line item analysis feedback so that you can make on-the-fly instructional decisions? Those were things that we wanted. We wanted parents to have insight into what their kids were doing. We wanted to invite our parents in as partners and not just be surprised with, oh, here's your grade and you get to see what your kids are doing 8 times a year, or read the newsletter or go to this one, web page and get a list of what, assignments are due. We wanted to make it easier than that. And we believe Schoology has done that with the parent logins where they can quickly see what's coming up. They can get feedback on their students. So it took a shared vision. And then the technical support, we had, put some support policies in place. Our teachers know that if they want to have access to a website, they need to get it approved and see if we can work through this process. But I will tell you that our teachers now expect everything to work inside of Schoology. And they're really pushing the envelope with, well, we want grades back from these textbook platforms to come back into Schoology so that we can see how our students are doing. And more of our publishers are actually giving that to us. ClassWorks is one where they will send the grade information back to Schoology. So when a teacher builds with ClassWorks, they go out to that site and they can send the data back for the teacher and the students to see inside of Schoology. And that's becoming more common. So I think we're done now. I don't know if David has some questions for us, or if we want to just go out to some questions that we have from those who are listening.
Yeah, so I have a couple of questions that people have asked throughout the webinar. If you're still listening and you do have questions, please put them in the questions box right there and go to webinar or in the chat, and we'll do our best to answer them. Before we get to the Q&A, we are going to send out a survey after this just to get some feedback on how we did in this webinar, what we could do to improve, and also what other topics you guys would like us to do on future webinars. So keep an eye on your email for that survey. I promise it's not spam. We take it very seriously. We would love to hear from you guys. So a few questions we got. First one was, how do you approve apps for the teachers to use? You guys talked about sometimes, how Schoology does a really good job of working with partners, but sometimes teachers go out and get things just for their classroom. Is there an approval process? Do you work with them on it?
We actually do. We have a list of textbooks, and I did not show this, but we have a list of all of our textbooks and how they're accessed, and we are almost 100% digital with our textbooks. So we provide that for our teachers so that they can see what like they can look up their textbook and see, oh, this is available with a link from Schoology, the cartridge is available, we have single sign-on to this textbook. When it comes to other web applications, there are many that we have procured at the district level. And so we have a list of what these are so teachers know that they have access to them and whether they can access them from Schoology, from ClassLink, or both. When it comes to other web applications, there's so many, we can't keep up with all that our teachers are using. But if the teachers want us to try to get single sign-on access from either ClassLink or from Schoology, then they email either Kimber, Betsy, Brenda, or me, and just say, we're looking at procuring this. Is this something we can get to work with Schoology? And they don't always have the technical verbiage to give us, but they just say, can you get it working like we have the textbooks, or can you get it so my kids can just link and sign on? So we will work with them, and we're a small enough district that we don't have necessarily a official form that comes to someone for that process, but the teachers will email, but usually Kimber or Betsy, and ask them because they work with them directly at the school level. And then Kimber and Betsy will work with me and with Brenda to get that process working. I do know that larger school districts like Houston and New York and others have a more formalized process for their web applications.
Got it. Another great question we had is there a way you can keep posts and folders in a draft mode until you're ready to post them? For example, daily plans and assignments.
Yes, one of the settings out beside an assignment or a folder is you can unpublish it. So therefore it is in draft mode until you're ready for it to be published for everyone to see. However, we do say you do not want to have assignments in an unpublished folder because it will not show up in a gradebook. So we have teachers maybe create an assignment folder and just keep everything in that one folder, and you keep that folder live.
And then in our district too, is we have heard from many Schoology districts, we have a group. So Schoology has a group feature, so it just works just like classes for students. And we use groups, and it's a means of sharing resources, posting questions. We have a group called the Tech Savvy Teacher Group, where almost all of our teachers are members of, but that's where they post technical questions. So they may say, is anyone having this issue with Google Drive, and something specific is happening when they're using it with Schoology. And it's usually those questions are so kind of detailed down to a specific tool the teacher is using, and we'll help them research it and figure it out. But we will share with, like we have a secondary math teachers group, and we'll put resources in there for those teachers. So for example, our 8th grade social studies teachers have worked together, and they've digitized their entire curriculum without us helping them. They've just done that. So they've shared their whole curriculum for the whole year in their 8th grade social studies folder. So they're able to take the resource, that build, and copy it into their classes. And then in the summer, they'll go back to the original build and they can make edits on it, and then they copy it into their class for the following year. So that across the district, our 8th grade social studies students are pretty much within a few days on the same topics, across the board. And as more and more teachers build and share, then teachers have resources they could use for small groups or for personalizing instruction for a group of kids who are very advanced, or just giving kids choices on different projects that they could do for the same unit that's being taught across the district.
That's great. So another great question that I saw here was, I'm just going to read this one. It's a little bit long, but I love the question is, we have issues with teachers just using Schoology to hand out worksheets they've used before. How do you help promote them to move beyond this initial step to use more of the features in Schoology that offer benefits to learning? Love that.
Yes, great question. And we have that too. So I don't want you to think that 100% of our teachers are at the same level of innovation, because it takes time. And Schoology is an amazing tool, but if all you're doing is digitizing a worksheet, you're just wasting time. I mean, all you're saving is money on the paper that it costs to copy it. So that's where you need to take Schoology and combine it with training around pedagogy for the 21st century learner. So we've done some training in our district. Modern Teachers, a group that we've worked with, and I love their work. But there are many, different pedagogies you can look at. But for example, direct instruction is a great pedagogy, but it only gets you to a certain level of rigor. If you want to get into analyzing, if you want to get to conceptual levels of reasoning, you need to get to inquiry-based learning or constructivist learning. And so focusing your training not on just what is the tool, but what does a constructivist lesson plan look like in Schoology? What does an inquiry-based lesson plan look like in Schoology? And we spent time 2 years ago when we first rolled out Schoology working with the instructional coaches at each school. And we had the instructional coaches build both inquiry-based and constructivist lesson plans for a unit inside of Schoology so that they would be able to see that difference. But absolutely, you're going to have teachers, if teachers are teaching only at direct instruction and it's only at comprehending a process or memorizing something, they're going to just digitize that in Schoology and the level of rigor will not improve. And that's not innovative. But when you combine the tool with the inquiry-based learning, constructivist-based learning, or even where you can take some direct instruction, but maybe flip the classroom so they're watching the direct instruction at home for 5 or 10 minutes, and then you can do a quick line item assessment of what they learned in that video, and then you can do a project or a problem in class. Then you've changed how, and let the technology help you move your instruction up in rigor and change up the pedagogy so kids are more engaged.
And we started with our high flyers. Yes, the first year of Schoology, or the first few months, was all about putting the worksheet on there. But then we realized when training was crucial, we started with the high flyer teachers. And that kind of got the interest going in the district. And then those high flyer teachers worked with teachers within their own building, and it's caught on. And so they just see the excitement, and everybody wants to be on board. But yes, you have those that don't want to be on board.
Yeah, and we do too. But I think that's a great question, and you cannot lose sight of the quality of instruction. Right. That just because you've digitized something doesn't make it more rigorous. In fact, a lot of the research shows when teachers first move to digitizing their curriculum, the level of rigor can go down because they don't know how to ask those questions yet that get kids thinking, or to use the tools inside of Schoology like the chat feature or a quick assessment, or using the writing tool or the big blue button where they can give feedback on. I will also say that something new that Schoology has done that we love and applaud them for is giving the principals a bird's eye view, view-only access to the Gradebook. So a principal can see a teacher's grades They can see their grade book for a class. If there's an online assessment and it was done online in Schoology, they can actually see the assessment to see the level of rigor of the questions. So if you combine like backwards design pedagogy, Wiggins and McTighe, which has been around for so long but is so effective, where you've got a rigorous goal in mind and you've built your assessment around being able to assess true learning that's taking place around a strong objective, and then you're building your lesson out through Schoology, you'll be able to take advantage of the online assessment tools, the feedback, kids who are sick being able to access the material, sharing those resources so that teachers, if 3 teachers build the same standards in a unit, it's a good unit, but it's different, then you can differentiate easily by sharing your units with each other. The tools will enable that innovation, but you must combine it with not just how to use Schoology, but how to be an effective teacher in today's world by talking about other types of pedagogies, rigorous assessment. We use the Modern Teacher Flipbook, which has their cognitive rigor framework. But whether it's depth of knowledge or Bloom's taxonomy, you really need to help your teachers define what is rigor. What does rigor look like? So that if it's analyzing at the conceptual level, then you know how to use Schoology as a tool to build for that. So the pedagogy must go hand in hand with a technology tool.
Barbara, do you want to mention anything that we're using Schoology for PD so that teachers and admins can see all the features?
Yes. In fact, we built our first course, which was how to become a samurai, and it was around the SAMR model. And we are building out professional development now where teachers can earn, all of our units are like 15 hours of credit, and we're modeling through a mix of online and face-to-face instruction how to use the Schoology tool at a rigorous level. And we're using it not just for technology, but for other trainings that take place at the school level. But we're trying to model the use of Schoology so that teachers can experience it from a student's perspective.
That's great. I didn't even know you guys were doing that.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about that some more after this webinar. Don't worry. Thinking with this theme, though, of helping teachers really get the most out of Schoology, one thing we hear all the time is, teachers having a fear that every year they're going to have to start from scratch, right? That they're going to build something and then they're going to automatically have to throw it away and redo it all. How do you guys train teachers on that? How do you guys talk to them about, reusing and building on what they've done year over year? And how do you kind of set it up to make sure that they're able to do that as quickly as possible?
Well, our teachers, we always send a reminder at the end of every year that says, here's how you back up your courses to your resources. We tell them, don't edit this year's courses because it could impact grades. Leave this year alone when the year's done, but we show them how to copy things to their resources and then how they can go into their resources and edit, how they can share out to their groups, and then copy those down into next year's classes once the new year rollover has done. Now that we're in our third year, teachers get it. And a lot of our high flyers created year one, and in year two connected everything to standards so they could use that mastery feature. And then they started building their assessments around the standards as well so they could get additional standards-based reporting in their online assessments. Once the teachers who in the first year didn't do much saw what the teachers were able to do the second year, they bought in. So now it's our third year, and a lot of our teachers were able just to go back to what they had created last year and just make it better.
The classes are also archived, so you can easily go back to a previous year's class and you just click on the little spoken wheel next to it and you can copy it to this current year's. You can copy resources from a class in the past. So just because it's last year's class doesn't mean you're not ever going to see it again. So that's what I liked as a teacher, yes, I would copy my resources into my own personal resource folder, but I could go, oh, I know there's a quiz I gave, or there's a page that I'm looking for, and I go and find it in the previous year's class, and I simply, with maybe 3 clicks at the most, copy it into my current year's class. So we just show teachers how to do that.
And students can see their archived classes as well.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, and that was actually another question that popped up. How do you guys handle the student transition? So like getting students into the new classes and making sure that's all set up and enrolled. I mean, here at Schoology, right, we help every district do it, so we call it Summer Slam because it's all happening at the same time. How do you guys do that from the district side?
Brenda?
I'll speak to that. In Power School, we have an ending date for the classes. So once that date comes around, Schoology archives the classes. Then Schoology is sort of dormant for maybe a month while schools finish their scheduling for the new year. Then we just click on our API and start pulling in the new year information into Schoology. Once we do that, teachers are able to see their classes for the new year, but we have it so that students and parents don't see those classes until they have completed the registration process at the schools. Does that make sense?
It does. So you guys are utilizing the SIS integration between Power School and Schoology, so yes. Teachers aren't manually entering students. It's everyone who's in their register in the SIS is just automatically enrolled.
That is correct.
Great.
And Schoology does that with other, like I saw an Infinite Campus question, but David, you would have to answer that on your technical end, but I know Schoology integrates with a lot of student information systems, not just Power School.
It does.
And that integration is what gets us down to not having to duplicate work. It's entered in the source, which will be Power School for classes, and that's the only place that it's entered.
Yeah, so on the Schoology side, you know, we tout ourselves as being the most open LMS, and we do integrate with almost every SIS on the market. So yeah, I answered that Infinite Campus one offline because I thought it was so specific, but we do integrate with Infinite Campus along with, like I said, almost every SIS on the market. Like we just got one about integrated with MyStar, and we do integrate with MyStar. I just want to be very clear, since I'm not in sales and I'm in marketing, I can say it's like those integrations are different depending on the SIS vendor. So if you want more information about that, you can put it in the Q&A, and I can have an account executive follow up with you, because those are different, right? So we have an exclusive relationship with Power School, so our integration with them is a little bit stronger than, say, our integration with MyStar, Alma, or some of those guys. One other question. I think we have time for one or two more. This is an interesting one. You talked about determining that vision for what you want students to be able to do with technology. How did you guys do that? How did you get buy-in? Is there a template you filled out? Like, what was that process like?
Oh, for getting buy-in for how we wanted technology. You know, I think ultimately vision tends to start with one person. I mean, it just does. So, I mean, I would say several years ago, we had a previous superintendent really was pushing technology but didn't have the money. So we started kind of with BYOD, and we had so many hangups with BYOD just because there was no way to push out a student menu. And that really, BYOD is what pushed us as a district to move to the necessity of having a single sign-on, which we have in ClassLink, because then you can push out URLs and logins, whether it's on a phone, an iPad, a Windows device, a Chromebook, whatever you have. And then we had an LMS that we just weren't happy with because it wasn't as evolved. And so we brought in, to really answer your question, I was very involved with IMS, so I had seen what some larger school districts were doing, and I wanted our district, our teachers and students to have that interoperability between platforms. So when we posted for the RFP and did the process for an LMS 3 years ago, we had 1 to 2 people from every school that we invited to be a part of that process. And so they listened to 4 demonstrations of kind of our top 4 LMS selections, and obviously Schoology was one of them. And then we let those people share feedback and vote. We brought them back in and talked with them. And it wasn't like a vote, like a necessarily a democratic process. That was one heavy factor we looked at in the process. But the teachers and the administrators who were involved in that process felt some ownership into the selection of Schoology. And we made a commitment to them that we would keep Schoology for at least 5 years, that we had signed a 5-year contract, so they knew when they were building that they could invest into it. But I don't know if that answers the vision question entirely, but I hope that that helps.
I think it does. It gives everyone... Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, and we did have some teachers that were using the free version of Schoology prior to us going to the enterprise version too.
Yes.
Oh,
that's right.
You guys already had some people using it. It sounds like, you know, the way you kicked off the process was having one person kind of lead some discussions around what does everyone want? What do the teachers want? What do the parents want? What do the administrators want out of technology?
Yes. And we actually did. We had a group of principals who kind of were a part of what's our vision for using technology. And, you know, then, you know, when you couple that with being able to tell them, well, here's what I've seen in Houston, here's what I've seen in Orange County, Florida, that neither of those 2 schools, for example, districts were using the exact same thing, but conceptually, I was able to bring back information about it really is important that we have single sign-on. It's important that our learning management system can bring in objects from different places, can bring in links to other web applications, and that they don't have to sign on. They don't have to click a button or go out to this link and use a different login and password and then have to go find the chapter and then find the video. Like, is there a quick way just to bring that video back into your build, even if it comes from a paid textbook site or if it comes from a paid video site? How can we bring that ease of use to teachers so that we're not telling teachers how to teach, we're not telling them what tools to use, we're just enabling innovation because we have done the work of making all of these digital resources interoperable so that it's easy and it flows. And we have just seen the use of digital tools just grow so exponentially because we've made it easy for our teachers. And now our teachers are pretty savvy consumers. And when they go to make a selection around textbook, or if they have money, one of the first questions they ask is, does this work with Schoology? Does this work with ClassLink? Because we don't want to be managing rosters and classes and passwords. And now our teachers have really come to expect that the platforms are interoperable and that they're going to share passwords and it's going to be easy to use because they have seen the value of the time saving so they can focus on, doing innovative curriculum, using innovative pedagogy, and they're not worrying about, all right, go to this URL. Oh, you didn't type that right. You don't remember your password. Like, they don't ask those questions anymore. We've done everything we can to take that lift off of teachers.
That's great. Well, I think that was the last question that we didn't have time for. There was a few others in the Q&A, but don't worry, we will email everyone answers. I want to thank all our presenters, so Barbara and Karen and Brenda. Thank you so much for taking the time and for doing this presentation and answering these questions. And I want to thank all of you for attending. Like I said earlier, we'll be sending out a survey to hear how we could do better on webinars in the future, as well as what topics you guys would like to see in the future. So keep an eye out for that and fill it out. We'll also be emailing out this recording. So if you want to watch it again, or if you want to share it with anyone, you will all have access to that. And thank you again. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks.